Have you ever opened up build mode thinking you're going to make a cute, haunted cottage and somehow end up recreating Jack Skellington's bachelor pad? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. But the real question is, who on earth would actually live here? Spooky season is coming up, and I thought I'd keep it simple. Gravestones, cobwebs, maybe a cauldron or two. Easy, right? Except my brain apparently said, haunted chic bachelor energy, please. So 15 minutes in, I leaned into it and decided to attempt my very first replica here on Sims Builds and Chill. And let me tell you, I picked a challenging one. The house is almost tapered, so the walls, they kind of lean out, something that the game definitely does not want to cooperate with. But I tried to employ a few sneaky little tricks to give the illusion of those leaning walls. I'll share those hacks with you in a little bit. But the other challenge was there's a tall spiraling tower that leans out on one side. In the movie, that's where Jack experiments with the Christmas items. And unfortunately, I couldn't include a picture for you so you could see what I'm talking about because I couldn't find one that was copyright free. But if you're struggling to picture what I'm saying, feel free to just open another tab quickly or pop on your phone and have a quick look because it's really eccentric and it's really hard to explain. I apologize for sending you on a side quest, but I am not a rule breaker in any way, shape or form. So that might help just give you the idea of what I'm going for here. And I must say, recreating that curve in the tower was an absolute nightmare, no pun intended. And because of the limitations in the game, I did take a few artistic liberties here and there throughout the video, but hopefully keep it as close to the original house from the movie as I possibly could, while also doing what I needed to do to make it look good in The Sims. And eventually, I must say, it turned out even better than I expected. But I'm curious, how close do you think I got to the movie version? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section after the video. Oh, and I also wanted to mention one more little twist that's going to come up in this build, but I haven't shown you yet. There is going to be a quote-unquote secret room tucked somewhere inside the house that's kind of my favorite part. I'll show you around when we get to it a little later. Oh, and by the way, if this little spooky house has made you smile, or maybe even tilt your head in disbelief, please give that like button a tap. It just lets me know that you're enjoying it and you'd like to see more. And if you're curious, I do have another haunted build in my mind as it is the season. So if you subscribe now, you'll be the first to explore it with me when it's ready. Okay, friends, let's talk roofs. I know, everyone's favorite subject in The Sims 4. But here I'm trying to add a little bit of whimsy by saying magical rooftops, because even in Jack Skellington's hideaway, a roof can really make or break the vibes. So here's a few little spells, tricks, I use to shape them just right. What I'm doing here is I am holding Shift and C on my keyboard, and this unlocks some extra roof controls which lets you curve and twist the roof to get the perfect angles that you're dreaming of. In this case, I think it's the little magic that makes those whimsical spindly peaks actually work in game. And here on the front section of the house, I use two separate roof pieces, one on either side, and that allowed me to create a little bit of asymmetry here and customize the front part of this roof even further. What you can see I'm doing now is I'm starting to experiment with that wild tower which leans out the side of the house. One thing I did was I staggered the rooms so that each one leans slightly away from the main building. I was trying to give the impression that the whole structure is gently tilting, which I think made it seem really magical and whimsical. And then you'll see I used a roof piece against the wall of the top section to try and create a smooth slope so it didn't look too jagged and awkward. And let me tell you, this created some really interesting and, to be honest, slightly tricky shaped rooms inside. I can't wait to show you what we do with those later. But this is actually the tallest tower I could make since the game only lets us go up 4 floors. But honestly, because the house is on a hill like this, to me, it looked absolutely massive. I was so pleased with it in the end. And then finally, just as the cherry on the top of the cake, as that final finishing touch, I added the roof at the very top on a jaunty angle. I just wanted this whole tower to feel as extra and as eccentric and as delightfully random as I possibly could. And of course, I made that roof as tall as possible as well. I was having so much fun playing around with this. Now, let me know what you think about this because I would love your feedback. To add a little bit of architectural detailing and maybe to trick the eye a little bit on that ground floor to make it feel like it's leaning, I sized up this little table from the Vampires pack and I placed it at the bottom of the tower. I just thought it made it look more complete somehow, as well as adding some visual interest. And don't worry, I do a few things to integrate it a little bit better than it is now. So it really looks like it's meant to be. So when the build's finished, let me know, do you like this? Does it add something to the build for you? Or if it was your build, might you have left it out and kept it more simple? Please let me know what you think. I would love your feedback on this one. And then what you can see I'm doing now, I'm adding a couple of roof pieces on the very top. I think those are nice because not only do they make the house seem even taller and possibly trick the eye into thinking it's slightly skinnier, but they just add that lovely visual interest that I think we get in real architecture as well. I do love these roof pieces, and then perhaps my favorite of them all, I used this little chimney, which is from Enchanted by Nature. I made it bigger, I sized it up, and then I put it on the other side of the house from the tower. And the reason I love it so much is because it gives the impression to the eye that the house is expanding and growing out in both directions. To me, it somehow adds balance and crookedness all at once. I hope that makes sense, and then it does give us the perfect excuse to include a little fireplace in the house as well. And if you know me, you'll know I love a cozy fireplace. What I love about The Nightmare Before Christmas and what really inspired me to go out on a whim and attempt this replica is how curious and just a little bit eccentric Jack is. He's always exploring and experimenting and chasing something new. That joy in discovery, the way he can turn even a tiny idea into an adventure, is exactly the kind of energy I wanted to capture with this build. So I started imagining who would actually live in a house like this. My brain started thinking about, maybe a vampire. It's got those spooky vibes. It might be perfect for them. Or maybe an eccentric, mad scientist with a laboratory, just like Jack uses when he experiments with Christmas. And I love those ideas, and they would definitely be possibilities if you'd like to take those and run with them in your own gameplay. But for me, I was hit with the idea, what about a spellcaster? Someone endlessly tinkering with magical experiments and mixing new potions and just delighting in the holidays in their own whimsical way. A sim who wakes up each day eager to test a new spell. That playful curiosity felt like the perfect match for this topsy-turvy little house. What you can see I'm doing now is I'm adding a little bump out to the ground floor because, as I was saying to you earlier, I wanted to try and integrate this architectural detail here, this sized up coffee table. Because even though it's fun and whimsical and perhaps this build looks a little bit magical and unexpected, I also didn't want it to look wrong, or it has to look right in a wrong kind of way, I suppose. What that means for what I'm doing now is I wanted to create a little wall bump out so that it looked like this architectural detailing was supported and that it was integrated like it was meant to be part of this build. And I think this little bump out went quite a way to doing this. It also means that during your gameplay, the table doesn't stick into the room that your sim's going to be using in any way. It's completely separate. So hopefully it's not intrusive during your gameplay in that way. I did have dreams of a grand staircase somewhere in this build. Just for me, when I think of a haunted house, there's always that hallway, that initial room that you walk into, a lobby almost, or a foyer. And within that room, there'll be a grand spooky staircase. But unfortunately, this build was just a little bit tiny for that. I wasn't able to get it in without really sacrificing the space we'd have for functional gameplay, and I felt that's probably more important. So we do end up going for ladders throughout this whole build. There's not a single staircase space to be found. I think Jack would love that though. There's a scene in Nightmare Before Christmas coming back to me when he's climbing one of those ladders attached to a bookcase and he's singing and he's so happy because he thinks he's figured out Christmas. That's what came to mind when I was putting this together. So I acknowledge it might seem strange to have a 4-story house and nothing but ladders connecting them, but I hope for this sim it's justified. I think he would love it. I was looking at a few reference pictures of A Nightmare Before Christmas and the scenes that include Jack's house, and it looked to me like he had some kind of fenced-in yard at the bottom of the hill with an absolutely massive gate right at the front, in front of the stairs. So that was one very easy thing that I was able to incorporate into this build. That's what I'm doing now. And a little bit later, we're going to flesh out this yard, and I hope you like it. I was able to include even more nooks and skill-building items and little places to relax, and a few very spooky touches as well. What you can see me doing now is I'm starting to plan out the space, come up with some kind of floor plan, and I had to be really intentional and careful here because, as you probably noticed, it is not a huge space, and some of the rooms are wonderfully crooked, so we had to really think it through to see what we could do here, make it as efficient as possible, still as beautiful, I hope, as possible, and also as functional as possible, because I am very aware sometimes our Sims might struggle to get around. Just so you know, I have play tested this build. I play test all my builds because I want to make sure if you download them from the gallery that they are playable and they're fun as well and they don't cause any frustration. So as always, I have play tested this build and it does work. I had to make a few minor changes. I'll point those out as we go through. But for the most part, what you see here is what you would get if you download it from the gallery. So on this floor, this is kind of the main living space, I suppose. What we're going to get is a kitchen, a dining area, a study area, and a little hobby/skill building area as well. I was really surprised how much I was able to get out of this relatively small space and still have it all work. I did have dreams and visions of a very grand dining table. You know, like in those old houses, they have like almost like a banquet hall. And perhaps that's where the lord and the lady of the house have their meals. He's all the way down one end of the table and she's all the way at the other. And there's no way they could ever hold a conversation because they're too far apart. I did want something like that, but I quickly realized that was not going to be possible in this little space. And on thinking about it more, I don't think that's very Jack Skellington either. I think he would much prefer a smaller table where he can share his ideas and collaborate with his Halloween friends, go over plans and tell stories about the adventures he's been on. I think that might be more his vibes, you know. So in a way, this was one time where having a restriction was actually really helpful. Let's talk about what makes spellcaster gameplay so enchanting in The Sims 4. Imagine, if you will, your Sim stepping into a world where they can cast spells and brew magical potions and even summon little familiars to keep them company. Our spellcasters were introduced in the Realm of Magic game pack, along with a magic system which brings possibilities for curiosity and chaos and whimsical experimentation. Being a spellcaster comes with all kinds of delightful abilities, and there are 4 schools of spells to explore. Practical magic, which lets your Sims fix broken objects and clean things instantly or even duplicate items. Who wouldn't love that ability? Then there's mischief magic, which is perfect for playful experiments and little tricks that leave your Sims giggling or possibly scratching their heads. Then there is untamed magic. That's full of unpredictable, powerful spells that can bring ghosts back or create fiery surprises. And then there's alchemy, where your Sims can brew potions using magical ingredients. These can temporarily fill needs, change emotions, remove curses, or sometimes, just to be warned, they do something totally unexpected. So let me know, what school of magic do you think the Sim who lives here would belong to? Practical magic, mischief magic, untamed magic, or alchemy? Alchemy is less about spells, perhaps, and more about brewing potions to alter or enhance a sim's magical abilities. And perhaps my favorite feature of spellcasters is that they can also summon familiars, little magical companions who can provide special benefits like mood boosts or protection from magical mishaps. And to be honest, this is another reason I thought maybe the sim who lives here is a spellcaster, because you might remember in The Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack Skellington has a little companion of his own, Zero the dog, who might be my favorite character. He's so sweet and he just wants to help and he's so adorable. Let me know, if you were a spellcaster, what kind of familiar would you like to have? For this build, I leaned into the spookier side of The Sims 4, so I mostly used the vampires and the realm of magic packs. They're just perfect for adding a little extra magic and that whimsical, haunted vibe. I did sprinkle in a few items from other packs here and there just to round out the details, but these two, I think, really set the tone. I just thought that might be helpful to mention, especially if you're planning on downloading this build from the gallery or recreating something similar in your own gameplay. Let me know, which Sims packs do you think give the best spooky vibes? Is it the realm of magic? Is it vampires? Maybe it's werewolves? There are definitely a few applicable items from Life and Death as well. And as always, as we go through, I'll point out where a few things are from, just because I know that's so helpful, and to be honest, for me, it's so interesting when I'm thinking about my own builds as well. And then, in addition to this main living area floor, we're going to have a bedroom and a bathroom up above, a living slash library slash nook down below, and then one other space, one little surprise I have for you that I just can't wait to show you. I am so excited. That'll be coming up a little bit later. So what this turned out to be is a one bedroom, one bathroom house with plenty of space to have fun and skill build. Now, when I was thinking about color scheme, I was like, do I have to make everything black and gray and brown and white? Because these seem to be very prominent colors in Halloweentown in The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is great. It's so atmospheric. But I think for The Sims, that might come across maybe a little bit bland if we did it everywhere. But I did notice in the scene where Jack is experimenting on his Christmas items, he does appear to have some red curtains behind him. And I took that idea and I ran with it. So we have black and grey and white, but we also have some really fun pops of red throughout this build. And I think that worked really well. It livened it up a little bit. It made it a little bit more vibrant. So here's a little secret about this build. I couldn't quite fit a full spellcaster experiment room in the spiraling tower. It was just too narrow, unfortunately, for all the magical chaos I had in my head. But you know what? The hill in this movie, which this house sits on, it's always looked a little suspect to me, like it's intentionally hiding something. There is no reason, even in a Tim Burton film, for a house to be up on a hill quite like that. What is Jack hiding? So that gave me the perfect excuse to go for it. And what you can see I'm doing now is I am using the basement tool to build a room into the hill. Yes, I decided to hide the spellcaster's lab inside the hill itself, right under the house. It gave us the perfect spot for a bubbling cauldron and a few magical books and potions where all sorts of experiments could come to life. And honestly, I think it makes so much sense. There just wasn't space for it in the tower like there was in the movie, unfortunately. But our curious sim still needs a secret spot to tinker without being interrupted by those nosy neighbors. So even better than that, hiding the lab in the hill, it allowed me to stay true to the movie version of Jack's house as much as I could, while still giving our spellcaster a functional space for magical experimentation. So really, I hope it's the best of both worlds. It's got that iconic crooked architecture, and it's also got a fully immersive play experience for us as well that feels alive and whimsical and just a little devious as well. I love that this hidden room creates a playful little mystery for anyone exploring the house. I did think maybe we could section off a small part of the ground floor room and have maybe a secret door, one of those bookshelf doors to get to it. And I think that would have been possible, but unfortunately I made the decision not to just because I wanted more usable space down there. And having that door, it seemed to compromise the ground floor a little bit too much for my liking. So, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you were playing as a spellcaster, what experiment would you try in the hidden lab under the hill first? So, down here we have our cauldron. I'll put a little picture up now of one of my Sims making some mac and cheese. I thought that was so cute. She is having such a great time down here. I really wanted to include a bookshelf where our Sim could put all their magical spell books, but there just wasn't space on this particular floor, and I couldn't bring it out anymore because it would make that hill that the house sits on, it would make that bump out and look more jagged, so we had to keep it small down here. So instead of the bookshelf, I included a couple of shelves with some magical potions and crystal balls and things that suggest wild stuff is going down in here. The herbs on the wall, they are from Realm of Magic as well. On this set of shelves, I put some candles. The ones on the lower shelf, those are from Eco Lifestyle. And on the top shelf, those candles are from Love Struck. And this book here, I thought we could imagine was full of incantations. That's from the Vampires pack. I also put a fire alarm down here because we have a lot of open flames in this room. You can't be too careful. So now we're moving on up to the main living area. I would love to know which room or which area do you think captures the Nightmare Before Christmas energy the best? This room is our library slash sitting slash living room. I tried to make it a little bit more grand since it's the first room that you're going to walk into when you come into this house. So we have this beautiful grand sofa from Vampires and a couple of bookshelves from Realm of Magic. I turned on the move object cheat and I tried to get them to shuffle together so they work nicely around this wall. And I really like that. It almost looks like a built-in unit and I think it's going to save us a lot of space as well. And if you see me adding crack details to the walls or cobwebs to the walls, those are also all from the Vampire pack. At least most of them are. And I do think these little details go quite a long way to adding to the spooky vibes that we're going for in this house. I put down this coffee table from Realm of Magic and then upon it I put the boneyard. That's what this fish tank is called. And I thought this was perhaps the most Nightmare Before Christmas inspired piece that I put in the whole building. It's just got the vibe so perfectly. I'll show you the little fish that comes to life you can put in this little fish tank. How adorable is that? The fireplace I chose, that is from Adventure Awaits, which is the newest expansion pack that we have for The Sims 4. I know this house, it perhaps isn't the best showcase for the new expansion pack, but there are a couple of Adventure Awaits pieces in here, just a couple. And I think sometimes that's helpful to see how it works with other packs. Does it play nicely with the other packs that we have? So seeing where I could incorporate these items into this spooky build was quite good fun, I must say. The Incantation Escritore, I don't think I'm saying that right. The Incantation Escritore, that is from Realm of Magic 2. It's supposed to be a place where our spellcasters can duck into and find incantations that they might have forgotten. So ideally this would have been nice to have on the lower floor, but failing that because there wasn't enough space, I thought this was a lovely place for it as well. It's a really beautiful piece actually, and I'm really glad I found a spot for it in this little build. In this little dining area, the table, that's from Life and Death. The chairs are from Realm of Magic. I did 2 big ones and 2 little ones just to give a slightly wonky, higgledy-piggledy vibe, to make it seem kind of quirky and eccentric and fun. These little ones are particularly fun. They are from what is called the Funkenstein collection. That just really made me laugh. And the rug under here, that is from Realm of Magic. And the red, actually, really pleasingly, honestly, it matches the curtains so well because one of the biggest difficulties I find when I'm decorating in The Sims is bright colors like red. It's very hard to get them to match, especially when the items are from different packs. Very often they just want to clash, but honestly, the red in this rug and the red on these base game curtains works so well here. And as you can see, I sized some of them down so they fit all the different windows we've got going on nicely. For the little study area, the desk I chose is from Life and Death and the chair is base game. I always forget that this chair comes in the base game. It's such a nice one. It's really, really lovely. And then this computer is from the Cottage Living Pack and it's a really good one if you're doing maybe period properties, old-fashioned properties, whimsical properties. Anything where you don't want something that looks super modern, this fits in really well because for gameplay, I think it's so helpful to have a computer. You can do so much on them. But perhaps for some builds, you don't want something ultra modern or slick. And this computer, it fits both needs quite nicely. I'll come back to this in just a minute, but for now, I'm just adding a few details to this other corner, which I'm now calling the gemology corner. I put down a gemology table, which is of course from Crystal Creations, and this forgotten woman statue, which is from Vampires, because in my head, we won't be able to do this in actual gameplay, but in my head, I thought it'd be quite nice if the spellcaster who lives here creates something nice on the gemology table and then hangs it on this statue. That was just a really lovely thought that they adorn her over time. And then I also put Patchy the lamp from the Werewolves pack because as soon as I saw it, it made me think of Sally. And I thought this might be quite a nice nod to her in this build. We don't have anything else really that's suggestive of her personality and her vibes. And to be honest, it might be difficult to have two Sims living here, but just for the story we're trying to tell, this little lamp, it just really spoke to her and her character. So we put that behind here as well, just to give a little bit of extra light in this corner. And of course, you can swap this gemology table out for anything you like. If you want another skill building item, you could change it out. Maybe you want an easel or a musical instrument or a flower arranging table or something like that. Anything you want really that we haven't put somewhere else in the build, you could squeeze it in here. And now as you can see, I'm just cluttering up this desk a little bit. One thing I'd forgotten with this particular railing I have here, you can actually put small items on this railing, which is a really nice touch. But the trouble I had was when I was trying to place things on the desk, they kept wanting to slot to the railing and it was really difficult to get items on the desk the way I'm doing it here without having them want to jump to that railing. So I decided, well, obviously the game wants me to have something here, so I put the little voodoo doll down on the railing. I thought maybe that was just a little nightmarish touch. And then on the little balcony space, or this little outdoor area here, I put down the telescope, which is from Werewolves. I thought that might be useful. We might want to build our logic skill, and this would be very handy. Plus, you do have quite a nice view out the front here. It would be a very good spot for a telescope. And then I used these lovely little tables from Enchanted by Nature and some of the little pots from Enchanted by Nature too. And I created a little garden area out here. I used the 9 key to raise up some of these seed packets so they sat nicely on the different levels of this table and then spread some out on the floor as well. I just thought it really looked quite eccentric and disorganized, which might sound like a bad thing, but for this particular sim, I think this speaks perfectly to how their mind works. Everything's a little bit everywhere, but in their head it all makes sense. And also, of course, plants are a very beneficial ingredient for potion making. So what's your favorite Halloween tradition in The Sims or in real life? My favorite, and I know this might be a little bit of a divisive one, but I love dressing my dogs up in costumes. It just makes my heart so happy, and they really love the attention they get too. Speaking of Spooky Day, are you dressing up this year? If so, who or what are you going to be? And if you clicked on this video just because you love Nightmare Before Christmas but you aren't a Sims player, here's a little fun fact. Spooky Day in The Sims 4 is a fully customizable holiday that came with the Seasons expansion pack. And the Sims, they can carve pumpkins, they can trick or treat, they can wear costumes. So it's basically all the Halloween vibes. I think one thing I was worried about was having that staircase right in the middle of the room like that, the one that goes to the floor below, kind of sticking out. I was like, oh, is that going to make it really complicated? But you know what? I think it helped in a strange way because it created this lovely little nook for the study area. And we also have that little bump out for the kitchen as well. And then from there, it mostly made sense. Unfortunately, we don't have matching upper cabinetry for these kitchen counters from Realm of Magic. I do not know why we didn't get those. I think they would have been beautiful as well. Honestly, for me, these cabinets are some of the most beautiful ones we have in the whole game. But alas, no upper cabinets, so I did add a couple of open shelves. I didn't add too much, mostly because there wasn't too much space, and what wall space we do have is mostly taken up by windows, but I thought it was a worthy sacrifice in this case, to sacrifice a little storage to have these beautiful views looking out in 3 directions. Almost everything you'll see in this little kitchen is Realm of Magic. The hood and the sink are both base game, and we do have the new blender from Adventure Awaits. That makes an appearance here. Honestly, mostly because I was so excited that we are finally getting blenders in the game and I could not wait to place it down. So I popped that on the little corner here. So this now is our top floor. I know we do have another level above this in our tower. I really wanted to make some kind of usable space out of it, but really it was just too small and it would have meant sacrificing this bigger space down here, I think, when we get a ladder in. It would have made this room, which is already a tricky shape, even more complicated to use. I don't love doing that. If I have a little room somewhere, I like to try and find a purpose for it. But sometimes, unfortunately, for the good of the rest of the build, I do occasionally decide against doing that. So up here, most of the space is taken up with the bedroom. This lovely dressing table and the bed are from Realm of Magic. I do end up moving the bed after I finish filming this video because this was one of the problems when I was playtesting. Our sim would get in there, they would go to sleep, everything would be fine, and then they'd always wake up and get out of bed on the other side. And no matter what I did, I tried to line up some things in their queue so that they would get out the nearest side to those items to go and use them. But they would always want to get out of bed on the right-hand side. If you're on your back laying on the bed, they'd want to get out on the right-hand side and they'd get stuck there. There was nothing they could do. They couldn't get around. So I did rejig this room just a little bit, but all the items you're seeing here do make it into the final build. We've got a dressing table and a bed from Realm of Magic. We've got these lovely statues from the vampire pack. I don't know about you, but if these were in my bedroom, I would be really creeped out. But for this particular sim, I think they would love it. This beautiful wardrobe is also from vampires. Isn't it gorgeous? I just think it's so beautiful. I would love something like this. The little candles on the bedside table, those are from Life and Death. And then I did also bring out the crow from Life and Death as well. We were talking earlier about lovely Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas. Isn't he wonderful? It would be quite hard for our dogs to live here, unfortunately, because without a proper staircase, they would struggle to get up and down between the different levels. They're not able to use ladders, which does make sense. So I tried to add a couple of other pets as well. We have the little bony fish downstairs, and then we also have this crow from Life and Death too. Our spellcaster sim is definitely an animal lover. And then this room, this is our bathroom. Almost everything in here, including the flooring and the walls, is from the Vampires pack. The only exception that I can think of is the light. That is from Horse Ranch. But I love how it looks slightly scuffy and dirty, and I think it goes well with the haunted house vibes here. I did end up, as well as rejigging the furniture many times, as you'll see, I also rejigged the doors and the windows. Or actually, I completely got rid of the door that leads onto the tiny balcony. I did like it. I thought it might be quite nice to be in the bath and open this door and let the fresh air in. That just just really spoke to me. But alas, it made the usability and functionality of the room almost impossible. And the space just flowed better without it. So that ends up going, the windows end up moving, and then we do eventually get everything in and make it completely usable without it looking really silly. At least I hope, without making it look really silly. Let me know, would you have done this the way I did this? Or do you have different ideas about how we might be able to make this wonky space work a little better? And now we are outside, adding some lovely finishing touches to really set this off with a flourish. It might not surprise you to know that there is a lot from Vampire's pack here, and I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but we are building this in Forgotten Hollow, which is the world that we got with the Vampire's pack, so it seemed fitting to have all the vampire landscape. It blends in really well with the world and the environment. And I had so much fun with this outdoor area, making it spooky, but also usable and also a little bit playful and eccentric as well. I think this was the perfect time to bring out Patchy from the Seasons pack. Patchy is the scarecrow that you can see here. You might recall from the Nightmare Before Christmas movie that one of the very first shots, we do see a scarecrow. He doesn't look exactly like this scarecrow, but I thought this was a lovely, lovely nod to the movie. I was really, really happy when I remembered that we have dear old Patchy here. I created a little graveyard in the back corner because honestly, why not? If there was ever a time to do it, it's got to be this build. It was just so perfect. So we have a few gravestones back here, as well as a little area to sit and a few forlorn looking statues. More space around Patchy for growing plants. I love that Patchy comes with a couple of pumpkins because, of course, Jack is the Pumpkin King. And then on the other side, also from the Seasons pack, we have these reindeer, which if you didn't know that this was a Nightmare Before Christmas build, it would probably seem so hilariously random to have these reindeer sitting outside the haunted house. But I'm hoping that if anyone finds this on the gallery and hasn't seen this video, they might be able to piece together what's going on here. That's my wish anyway. I was thinking, should I add more Christmas elements? But I quite like that it's just one moment. The randomness of it made me laugh. Maybe now during our gameplay we can pretend that some time has passed since Jack almost ruined Christmas, and maybe he doesn't want too many reminders, but maybe he just keeps these because, as Dr. Finkelstein says in The Nightmare Before Christmas, curiosity killed the cat. Maybe these reindeers serve as a reminder that that isn't always a good thing, despite what Jack originally thought. After doing this build, I was thinking to myself, are there any other holiday or spooky movies that could inspire another build? One idea I had was the Beetlejuice house. I think that would be so fun to try and replicate. But let me know, do you have any ideas of your own? If you do, you can pop them down in the comment section below. If you have enjoyed today's build and you'd like to play here, I'll put it on the gallery. I'll call it Jack Skellington House. And you can also find all of my creations by searching for the hashtag SimsBuildsChill. If you've loved wandering through this spellcaster's world with me, you can click here to explore another magical build full of secrets and surprises.